Hello and welcome to Arsenal Domination, where Arsenal will be celebrating a good win at Burnley yesterday by 2 goals to 0. Victor Gyökeres and Declan Rice scoring first half goals to give Arsenal the points. I didn't see the game yesterday because I was at a family event, so couldn't watch the game, but I've seen the highlights and read a few bits afterwards, and it sounded like a very routine victory for Arsenal. First half, apparently very, very good. Victor Gyökeres in particular, excellent. Apparently had his best game for Arsenal. And in the second half, Arsenal went into cruise control. But the sort of notable bit that sort of came out of the game for me was that Arsenal picked up another couple of injuries. Victor Gyökeres going off at half-time and Martin Zubimendi in the second half. And we're just starting to see injuries build up, not just at Arsenal, but at other sides across England in particular, but I'm sure across Europe as well if I was to check it out. And most of the sides that are getting these injuries are the sides playing in multiple competitions, Europe, League Cup, and the Premier League, as well as the international games. And it is starting to cause teams issues. Liverpool actually have a noticeable amount of injuries. Interestingly, they are talking about how injuries are derailing their season and nothing else, which is a stark contrast to last season when Arsenal were in the same position. And I think injuries are starting to bite them, but I do still think that they have deep structural issues that aren't necessarily linked to the injuries, but they will be hindering Slot's ability to fix them. But Arsenal, of course, to bring it back to Arsenal, they really are also suffering. We know about Havertz, Jesus, Madueke, Saka's been out at times, Saliba, Martinelli, Odegaard, and now possibly another couple of injuries as well. It really is starting to pile up. And as I say, a lot of these injuries this season have been impact injuries, and there's not a lot you can do to mitigate those. But a couple of muscle injuries also in there. Zubimendi apparently felt something at the weekend. Hopefully that won't be anything serious. He will miss the game in midweek just through suspension anyway, so hopefully he'll be back for Sunderland. But it does sort of lead you to wonder whether there are too many games being played. Mikel Arteta, I think, has rotated as effectively as he can this season. We saw him make 10 changes and win the other night. Victor Gyökeres is probably the exception to that with the injuries to the number 9, but even then he's been subbed off in games to try and get him a rest and take the minutes out of his legs. And we're seeing a ridiculous situation like Crystal Palace having to play 4 games in 8 days. And I think ultimately you can see a player strike happening unless the FIFA and UEFA and the domestic league start to do something about this, because ultimately it will spoil the product of the game if you're not seeing the best players out there. And sometimes more isn't as good. Sometimes less is more. But managers will have to deal with it in the short term. Arteta doing it well, and we'll see what happens.